Ms. Aurora Sanchez, thank you so much for participating in this episode of the Reference Desk. Reference Desk is a resource for our audiences to get to know more about the branches and the work that we do in and around Philadelphia.
Sure. So my name is Aurora Sanchez. I've been with the Free Library officially since 2006. I started as a work study student in North Philadelphia in 2004, 2005, while I was a student at Temple University.
You run a program. Can you tell us a little bit about your program, your title?
Sure. So my title is Healthy Communities Coordinator. The Healthy Communities Project is a partnership between the Department of Public Health and the Free Library of Philadelphia. It is a health and wellness initiative that's purpose is to increase accessible health and wellness programming in the city of Philadelphia through the Free Library.
What branches do you operate this program out of?
That's a great question. So I'm holding up my fingers so I can try to keep track. So we've worked with Lillian Marrero Library. We've worked with Queen Memorial, FUMO, Joseph E. Coleman, Overbrook Park, Richmond, Tacony, and those are the ones that I can, South Philadelphia Library, those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
So we had an opportunity to see the space at Lillian Marrero Branch. Can you talk about how that program operates in that space and in that community?
Wonderful. So Lillian Marrero was like one of the first libraries that we were in. It is the first library we were in. There was a children's librarian there at the time who was very adamant that they have a garden. She had done gardening programming in another library and really wanted to bring that to the children in North Philadelphia at Lillian Marrero. So we worked with another organization, Greensgrow, to bring in 20 raised beds. I think they're like repurposed apple orchard boxes. Something like that. So we had them, so there are 20 raised beds in the driveway on the west side of the building at Lillian Marrero. And they've grown all kinds of stuff. There have been giant sunflowers. We've grown kale, we've grown carrots, tomatoes. And it's a space that's actually been multi-purpose. So I think originally it was like a lot of young people in the space. And then it kind of transitioned to me working with folks from Edible Alphabet, which is another program at the Free Library. And the Friends group. So there was sort of some overlap between the Edible Alphabet folks and the Friends group for Lillian Marrero. So they would come and we would meet weekly or bi-weekly and just kind of be in the garden and grow things. And it was just a good time to be there and be with them.
How do you think that healthy eating program and the food initiatives has kind of helped bring that community together?
Food, right?
Food always brings people together.
Food. And it's delicious food and it's healthy food. And so the programs that we've done there, we worked with community chefs. So that was one of our big programs. That was one of the first things that we did there. And the community chefs were folks that they registered, they applied to be in a program. And we worked with an organization in New York called Just Food. And they came down and they trained 14, 15 community members to lead culturally competent, strength-based culinary programming. And it was a wonderful experience for everyone. They brought down such like a wealth of knowledge and really created a socially and emotionally enriching environment within which, these community members were learning how to cook. And so after folks got trained, we worked with them to get them Serve Safe certified, which means that, they are certified to handle food safely in a restaurant space, right? So this is a marketable skill. And we worked with as many folks as we could to get them to lead programs. And so the book that we worked out of, especially early on, is called Good and Cheap. It's by Leanne Brown. It was a very big deal in like 2015. But the premise behind the book is it's actually like good and cheap, eating well on $4 a day. So the author created this book, I believe it was her dissertation, and it was based on New York prices and the SNAP budget, right? So based on this idea that, you're using SNAP dollars to purchase your food, how can you eat well with with limited resources? So a lot of the food is vegetarian, and people love it. And there's such this misconception that people don't like healthy food. That's a lie. People love healthy food. You just have to, you have to make it for them, right? You have to let them try it. And you have to make it deliciously, right? Like people still like seasoning, right? Like people still like all of those things that, you might be putting on less healthy foods and less healthy meals. take those elements, take those oils, take those seasonings, take that lemon, right? Put all of that stuff on other things, on things that are just vegetables or just fruits, and people will love those too.
You talked about kind of the uh, healthy initiatives that your program brings in, but it's beyond food, but also kind of having yoga and fitness and strength training. Now, what does that look like?
Awesome. So we would set up in a meeting space, or depending, actually at Marrero, we set up on the floor a few times. Just kind of push furniture out of the way, and laid out yoga mats and just did yoga in the middle of the library, right? And like a lot of times it was a lot of women and children who were coming to the programming, but they would again just have really positive experiences. They enjoyed it. There's something healing about moving the body, and I think especially when you think about like what yoga is really supposed to be about, it's supposed to be about like bringing the mind and the body together. We live in really chaotic times. It's nice to be able to just be in one space. It's nice to be able to focus on your breath, focus on movement, right? So it goes beyond just being a physical activity to being about your mental health and your wellness.
How do you think our members and the people who participate in the library can be a better support to the branch as it's trying to find that balance between reopening and being a community pillar?
My first thought is listen. You have to listen to what the frontline staff is saying. You have to listen to what the community wants. And you have to be willing to do things that might seem out of the scope of what has been done before, or out of the scope of what might be easy, to, again, eliminate barriers, right? Like there is a reason why some communities don't have food deserts. And it's not just because, right? People make decisions, right, that put people in different positions financially, economically, as regards to their education, their health, all of these things. And so if you really want to make change, you have to listen to people. And again, you have to just be like, oh, this is a barrier that was typically there. We're going to ignore this barrier. We're going to take the steps that are needed to make sure that people get what they want and get what they need.
As programs are starting to move to virtual programming, how are your healthy initiatives being rolled out for the future?
Zoom, just like we are right now. Zoom and Facebook. It's interesting. What I found when we finally like made the transition to Facebook and Zoom is that in some ways it's a very easy lift as far as programming, right? Like you set up, you make the space available, you work to make as much information / supplies accessible to people. So with the strength training program, they would highlight things around your home that you could use as opposed to the supplies that we would have been providing if they were in the space. When it comes to the culinary programming, we try to make sure folks know what they need to prepare the recipe in advance. And all of our culinary programming so far has been like African heritage culinary programming, right? So again, culturally competent programming. And the beauty of the program is called the Taste of African Heritage. And the history of the program is that it takes this food from the African diaspora, right? So it's not just the continent, it's the Caribbean, it's South America, it's America itself, especially in the South. So taking those food traditions and extracting the things that make those food traditions less healthy, right? So that means these are very veggie heavy foods, very low to no sugar, low to no salt, low to no dairy, right? So it's just like, let's just keep the essence of what's good about this and let's make it delicious. And the one thing about A Taste of African Heritage is that, even one of our educators, she like loves to talk about how doubtful she was when she first went to the program herself as a participant, and how she had like one little like spoonful of like peanut stew and it changed her life, right? And now she teaches the class and she still raves about the educator. That she worked with. And that program happened at the library, right? So the educator she worked with, Dejanaba Gordon, she's a member of the Culinary Literacy Center's board now. And Claire is one of our educators that we work with really often. And she's been with us for a long time, and she's done summertime programming with special needs students. And she also works with the Hunger Coalition, helping folks get access to their food needs in a bigger and broader way. So there's just a lot of great connections that happen.
What do you think is the best way for our audience to find out about these programs as they happen in the future?
I would say the Culinary Literacy Center's Facebook page is probably the place to start. And then we try to keep updated on the calendar. We also try to keep the Instagram updated, but I feel like the CLC's Facebook page is probably the best way to keep up with us.
Last question is, what are your hopes for the future of healthy programming as they pertain to the Free Library?
My hopes for the future is that they will continue to just be more and more diverse types of programming, right? That we'll be working with all different kinds of folks, working with more folks who are just like, this is actually the library where I go all the time. And this is the like health and wellness thing that I do that I want to share with you. I would love to see more and more of that.
With that, Ms. Sanchez, we will conclude. I want to thank you for your time this afternoon. I want to thank you for your service and the work that you do at the branches. And I hope that our community can certainly support your programs more in the future. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you.